The cell phones are out. How am I ever going to keep order in the classroom? These cell phones are driving me nuts. Please deliver me from the cell phones. We'll talk about how to deal with cell phones in your classroom or the misuse of cell phones in your classroom in just a second. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 ways of dealing with cell phones in your classroom. Now, one thing I do want you to realize is that students are not taught how to properly use their cell phone. They are not taught that there is a time that it's okay and a time that it's not okay. We have students now who this is all they've known. They've never been farther than arm's reach from a telephone and communication with whomever they wish to communicate with. With that in mind, understand that separating people from their phones is difficult, but it's not impossible, and it's not the separation we want to do. We want to teach students how to use their phone. It's not something they have to have in their hand 24/7. Talked about how my classroom was arranged. I've got drawer units that my students use. When they come in the classroom, they place their phones in that top drawer as they enter the classroom, and they stay there for the class period. That is something that is a regular routine in my classroom, the putting up of cell phones at the beginning of class. Now, how to deal with cell phones. Cell phones come out when you don't want them to, and it's gonna happen. If it hasn't yet, it will happen. How are you gonna deal with it? I have 5 wonderful ways that you can deal with cell phones. Number 1 is if you take someone's cell phone, it doesn't matter what brand I have found out so far. I'm sure there are some phones this doesn't work on, but I have yet to find one. Take the cell phone, swipe to the left, you get to the camera, and when you get to the camera, you can take pictures. What I normally do is aim it at the floor and click, 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 click. Hundreds, thousands of pictures of the floor and my feet as I wander the classroom after I've taken their cell phone up. Sometimes I take a selfie or two with me holding an index card that says no cell phones or cell phones not allowed, something humorous like that, and the students all see me do it. And while I'm doing all this click, 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 clicking on the phone, I'm teaching. That's right, because I have their undivided attention. They're paying more attention now than they were before. Number 2, it's the freezer bag cell phone jail. You know those bags that they sell at the grocery store so that you can take your ice cream home and hopefully remain solid or at least cold by the time you get home? Well, guess what? Those bags are foil lined, and if you take a cell phone, stick it in there, seal the bag, and leave it at your desk, when you go back and take the phone out, it will have been trying to find signal so hard that its battery will be severely depleted. And when you hand them their phone back with 10%, 5%, or 3% battery life left, they realize then that maybe they don't want their phone taken up. So students learn this process of when there's a right time and when there's a wrong time to have a phone out. Number 4 is have a student call their parent, and you have them call the parent and you talk to the parent on their cell phone. That is also effective. And number 5 is, now I've never done number 5. I know a teacher who does. It's where I got the idea. Is you take the cell phone, you stick it in one of those bubble wrap lined mailing envelopes, and then you seal that envelope. And then you take duct tape or Gorilla Tape and you wrap that thing up in duct tape or Gorilla Tape just over and over and over, round and round, up and down, round and round, over and over, multiple layers of duct tape, and then you give it back to the student at the end of class. Or if the student has been persistently out of line with their cell phone, you might take that bundle of duct tape and cell phone and envelope and stick it into another mailer envelope and tape it the same way. Then you give it to them and send them off on their way. Now I have one more bonus way of dealing with the cell phone, and that's lock it up. It works with Apple phones mainly, and that's you enter the wrong code multiple times and it locks up for a minute. Enter the wrong code again, it locks up for 5 minutes. Enter the wrong code again and it locks up for 10 and then 15 minutes. If you take the cell phone up early enough in class, you can get it to that 15-minute mark, but don't do the 15-minute one until after the dismissal bell rings, so that you send them off to the next class with the cell phone locked up and they're unable to use their cell phone even in the next class, and that helps out the next teacher a little bit as well. Taking up the cell phones, that is probably the biggest question you have. How do you get them to give you their cell phone? I just ask. It's a non-negotiable. We talk about it at the beginning of the year. I simply say, hey, your cell phone is out, or I'll walk over and say, give me the phone. Mr. George, what are you going to do? Are you going to take it to the office? Now, if I choose to take it to the office, it's going to cost them $15 to get it back. Also, then I'm not dealing with it. The administration is, and assistant principals who have much better things to do than deal with telephone. If I can deal with it, I will. And that's why, and I don't tell them whether I'm going to give it back or not. They give it to me. They trust me enough to do that. You can build that kind of trust. Even when you wrap it up in tape, even when you take selfies with it, even when you lock it up, they still trust you enough to give you that phone when they are caught breaking the rule. And generally, over time, that rule breakage tends to slow down and sometimes even go away completely. I have a couple of classes where they just don't come out anymore. I enjoy learning with you, I enjoy teaching with you, and together we can take over the world.